When you look to Montalcino in the south, now we're going to change our view quite a bit, and I'm going to talk specifically about Podere Salicuti, and that'll help us sort of frame the argument for what is, I think, a really fun area of Montalcino. You've got great producers in the southern part. Historically, the south part of Montalcino is where you find those producers like Biondisanti, Salicuti, Piandellarina, as I mentioned, Barbi, Potazzine, Cerbaiona. You've got some of the more well-known names, arguably, of the area of Montalcino in terms of historical reference. For sure, Biondisanti and Barbi were there in the beginning, helping establish quality wine from the area of Montalcino, really took it out of the poorest commune of Montalcino in the 50s into the wealthiest of Siena in the 80s and 90s, and today with some of the most important vineyards at the Il Greppo estate for Biondisanti. The southern part of Montalcino, calcareous and limes and sandy limestone, it's really mineral rich, much like the northern side of Montalcino area that was underwater, erosion, this turning of soils led to really thin, well-drained soils. And this area of 360 to 500 meters above sea level is very significant, because when you look to the next section, Tavernelle, that we'll talk about, they're in lower elevation and really not able to do as much with the vineyards that would, or the land, I should say, that would come up above that. The opinion in Tavernelle is that 280 meters, 230 meters is ideal for Sangiovese. Here, you're seeing amazing quality coming from 360 to 500 meters above sea level. Firm tannin, strong primary fruit, but really driven by secondary and tertiary flavors. These are wines of depth, of concentration, but most importantly, that really strange, this really strange interaction of power and elegance that create age-worthiness in wines. I think that as we look to some reference producers in this section, Biondisanti, we can follow their vineyards and see how they look from the Il Greppo estate. Really just a beautiful view here of sort of the rich soils they've got. They're protected in many ways from the outside influence with the forest they've got around their vineyards. You're looking down south here in a second. I'll show you the view to the south. And you can see how the influence of Montamiato really, again, attracting the moisture on the southern side, assisting in frost mitigation and fog mitigation. You can see the view from there down the valley, so to speak, that is cut on both sides into the southern part of Montalcino, leading down towards the Orcia River and over into Montecucco. Really just a gorgeous place to make some of the most compelling and interesting Sangioveses we'll find from the area of Montalcino. We go from there, we can follow, as I mentioned, Podere Salicuti, which is just down the street. Here we're not talking about that far from Montalcino. As the crow flies up the river, you're about 4 kilometers. So it's really not that much of a change in distance, but it's a big change in terms of aspect. So you can see the town of Montalcino here. I'll just draw it out for you to show you the distance, just so you know I'm not lying to you. You're only talking about, from the top of the hill, about 4 kilometers to Podere Salicuti again. Biondisanti, 1.5 kilometers, really small distances, but a world of difference between Biondisanti and Salicuti in terms of the type of soil that you'll see between the two, and aspect and pitch. I mean, we can talk about their difference in elevation. It shouldn't be that significant as we talk about these two. I'll flip it around just so it doesn't look like it's a straight line. But you can see it's only about 28 meters in difference between the two in terms of elevation. We'll zoom into Salicuti here now and just sort of take a look at what I think is really compelling about this section out here. Again, not to detract from Biondisanti, the wines over there are amazing. I just think that as you look at the wines in this section of Montalcino specifically, you've got Barbi up at the top, which to me doesn't make the wines that it used to make, that really put Montalcino on the map. Gianni Brunelli, which is making some wonderful wines. Those are up in this this section here of this particular sort of cutout. You'll see that as I'll drop the X, you'll see it's on a ridge at the top of the hill here that drops down significantly. And for us, for Salicuti, as we import those wines, you'll see there's really 4 different sections of the vineyards of Salicuti. You've got what is the Sorgente vineyard here, Piagione, which is this large section, and then what was in the old days called Teatro up here, or Alto Piagione. These make three very different types of wines, and the new owners of Sala Cuti did a wonderful job really trying to express the terroir and the image. They're calling cru wines here with three different bottlings of Brunello di Montalcino from Sala Cuti. Again, you've got this really, I think, interesting elevation gain from, I'm going to take the top of the hill where you find Barvi, and we're going to drop it down 65 meters here. But I think more significantly, if you take sort of the top section of Sorgente and where it goes down, and we're going to drop that over to the road, you'll see there's a 90-meter drop in elevation from this section down to the bottom of the hill. You'll see that played out in many parts of Montalcino where there's a really significant drop, 100 meters, 150 meters, even in vineyards. We're talking about a 10-degree slope in sections of these vineyards for Sala Cuti. And you can see that. I mean, the wines are spectacular, but the vineyards are extremely challenging to manage because of the steep pitch. And this you'll find very similar to what you would see in other sections of Montalcino in the south. So really nice cutout here to talk about sort of not just Sala Cuti, but also Barvi. And again, a very small region. As you take the exit off this is the main road coming down from Montalcino. You take this exit, here you got the start of the Barvi vineyards, and it comes all the way out. Now you've got Gianni Brunelli towards the top. Again, not a large section of vineyards here, but I think you're talking about a total area of 70 hectares that are being farmed, and not all that under vine, obviously, with Sala Cuti only having about 4.9 hectares of Brunello di Montalcino. So really interesting and cool section for sure of Montalcino, and I think one worthy of attention because you've got three very important producers housed here between Sala Cuti, Gianni Brunelli, and then Barvi. They give you very different ideas on the southern part of the DOCG of Montalcino. Potazzine, Cebayona, and then of course Salvione, Cebayona, even if the cellars are in different parts, basically a butt in terms of vineyards. They're really gorgeous producers, very, I think, traditionally minded. Piandellarino is a producer I think worth noting because of their very hardcore farming practices with biodynamics. Sala Cuti, Piandellarino, and Stella di Campalto sort of broke off from the DOCG, the consortium's representation, because they didn't like what they were doing in terms of some of the rules they were putting in place. And they created SPA for us in English, Sangiovese per Amico, which just refers to them and their approach to wine, what they think it stands for in the area of Montalcino. But they're all great friends. I think Piandellarino makes probably a more intense style of wine from Montalcino for this particular section in that southern part of Montalcino, but a very noteworthy producer and certainly one that should be on people's maps or on people's lists. So for me, these are sort of the lineup, probably the most intense grouping of producers with 8 total to be represented, but all excellent in terms of the wine, and I think all very traditionally minded in terms of the way that they approach wine and the structure and the style of winemaking. So here's a great view from Sala Cuti. You can see what I mean by Monte Amiato in the distance, and sort of the peaks and valleys of this ridge that really cut through the southern part of Montalcino. And you can see that it's largely protected by forest here. About 60% of Montalcino is forest land still. It is not going to get cut down, I promise you that, with their focus on protecting the environment in the area of Montalcino. But for sure, you do find isolated vineyards. You're able to be really innovative in terms of your farming to make sure that you're protecting the land. Most of the approach here is that you're renting the land. If you're a producer, even if you own the dirt, you're not going to be there forever. So people are really focused on the environmental character and protection of the land. And to that extent, incorporating that into biodiversity in their vineyards. And we talk a bit more about that as we get into Tavernelle,